But for the moment right now, we are live. So I'll actually have Amanda kick it off, and I'll pretty much be going in. So it's pretty much freestyle, like I talked about before, Bill. So if there's anything, definitely the biggest thing, what we talked about earlier today, as far as utilizing utility bills, cable bills, rent, to build up a credit, I think that people definitely need to know about. And then, of course, your contact information as well, if somebody just has direct questions for you.
Definitely. Thanks. Yeah, I just direct contact information, 610-660-9700. That's the quickest way to get a hold of us. And we are a full service broker and a bank. So we have the best of both worlds where we can bank the loans if we help out with people. And if they don't fit that mold, we can broker them out. So, if you walk into your retail bank where you have your checking and savings account with, they have one set of guidelines that if you don't fit into that box, that's it. There's no other options. What people don't know is when you're a broker, you have those options to look at all the banks that you're signed up with to access those things. So that's one of the benefits we have. But I'm happy to go over any questions anybody has from credit, which is a big topic right now with a lot of questions and some myths out there that I think we can get corrected, along with any other steps through the process to help people get their feet started and pointed in the right direction.
Great. All right. Well, I will start with Amanda. Feel free to take it away, and then we'll round robin this thing.
Okay. Well, do you want to do just a quick introduction? Because I don't think you and DeAndre know each other.
Yes. Well, let's start with DeAndre. DeAndre, are you able to show video, man? We got the world looking at us, man. Or are you driving?
Hey, yeah, I'm driving right now.
All right. We're not going to knock it. Well, definitely feel free to introduce yourself to the world, so folks know who you are and how they can get in contact with you with any real estate questions.
Well, how's everybody doing? Once, like you said, my name is DeAndre, and I've been with Super Realty for like a couple months now. I think it's like 4 or 5 months now. But if anybody wants to get in contact with me, they could call me. It's easier to call me or text me at 267-210-6135. I'm always.
Say that number again.
I'm always
267
on my phone. I always answer.
267
210
6135. All right. I posted your number in the chat box there. And Riley hopped on and then jumped off. So I don't know what happened with that. I guess we'll officially get started with our renters workshop. We wanted to give this information session today to really give current renters, potential renters, and maybe renters who think they might be buyers a little bit of information about what some of the processes are and what they can expect. So my name is Amanda Gleason Mack. My handle, Amanda Rocks Real Estate. I go by that in everything that I do because I rock real estate. And forgive me, I've got them all blinged out with my Halloween time because Halloween is like my favorite holiday. But I just wanted to get started with everything here and give you a little bit about my history. Hi, Riley. Welcome.
Hi, how are you? I'm so sorry. I don't know what was going on, but it wouldn't let me get in all this time.
I'm glad you were able to get in. We are live on Facebook.
Awesome. I love it. How are you guys?
Great.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited.
Awesome. And Dan's going to introduce both of you guys in a little bit. So I'm going to look forward to that. So I've been in real estate for, I guess my whole life. Technically, I've always lived in a home, right? But the past 5 years, I have been working in property management, assisting different owners and property managers in handling their rentals. So I have become a little bit of expert in the rental market, especially in the Philadelphia area. So that's what I've been doing for the past 5 years. I got my license a little over 3 years ago, and I'm working on becoming a broker, hopefully before the year is out, and investing on my own as well. So today I just wanted to share briefly some quick tips about some information people need to know about renting. So I'm just going to share my screen. I'm not going to be too formal, but I like to make sure I stay on topic by creating a little bit of a PowerPoint here. Everybody can see my screen? Give me a thumbs up.
Perfect.
Awesome, awesome. So our renters workshop today with Ann Moody, who maybe will hop on later, Dan Umstead, what? And me, Amanda Gleason Mack. So if you're thinking about renting, what are the requirements? Most landlords, especially if they're dealing with a professional property manager, they're going to look at your income. They want to see that you make at least 3 times the monthly rent. That's your gross income before taxes. So let's say you make $10 an hour and you work 40 hours a week. Your gross weekly income is $400 a week. Your gross monthly income could be extrapolated to be about $1,730 or so. If you need to be able to make 3 times the monthly rent at that income, you can probably afford $550 a month in rent. So it is really difficult sometimes to qualify for rentals in this market, as we see 1-bedrooms are, Dan, have you showed a rent 1-bedroom recently? What was it, $800, $900?
Yeah, pretty much like 750, 800.
750, 800, yeah. So that's really tough if you're making, $10 is not even all the way down at minimum wage. What else are they looking for? A lot of landlords want to see a higher credit score. 600 used to be the minimum. When I got into this industry, that's what a lot of people were looking at, was a 600 minimum credit score. I have seen landlords laugh at a 670 and a 680. We recently had somebody, what was that landlord looking for, Dan?
735.
735.
Just to rent.
To rent an apartment. 735. If you have a 735 credit score, maybe you could have your own house and not have to listen to a landlord and follow their rules. Just saying. I always look for no recent collections. When I pull a renter's tenant score, I'm not seeing a FICO score. I'm not seeing the same score that a lender's looking at. I'm not even seeing the same score that a car loan company is seeing, or a homeowner's insurance or a car insurance company is seeing. They're all different credit scores. You could pull your Credit Karma and see a different number than the one I get when I pull you on Rent Spree. Lots of times the credit score that we're seeing is called a resident score or a rental score. And the algorithm is totally and completely different. So me personally, I don't pay attention to the number, but I pay attention to your collections. If you have a collection in the last 2 years, you're not getting on my list. It's just not happening. No evictions and no judgments. So a lot of people don't realize that they have been evicted. I hear it a lot. Their landlord took them to court and they got a judgment, but they made an agreement. It's still a judgment. It still comes up when I pull your eviction history. It doesn't say the sheriff put you out, but it says that the landlord got a judgment against you, and that can seriously impede your ability to get a rental. My joke is that I wouldn't rent to me. A couple years ago on paper, I had collections. I had a below a 600 credit score, and I was evicted from a property 5 years ago. So I wouldn't rent to me. Just saying. The last thing that they're looking at is your criminal background check. Now, this is going to vary on a case-by-case basis depending on the landlords, as well as depending on the type of property that you're interested in pursuing. So some petty crimes would be accepted by some landlords, others wouldn't. It's really going to be on a case-by-case basis, but most credit reporting companies that target landlords like National Tenant Network, Rent Spree, TransUnion, SmartMove, they're all pulling your criminal background. And guess what? They're not just looking at your convictions, they're seeing everything. If you were pulled over and you got issued a ticket, but ultimately it was dismissed, it's coming up there. If you are currently being charged with a crime and you have not yet been convicted, it's still there. So it's really, really important. Sometimes I use this just to see if my potential tenants are lying to me, because the application they filled out says, do you have a criminal background? Yes or no. And I can see if they're lying. So it's a really interesting way to take people's temperature, but also some landlords are just not comfortable with people with certain criminal backgrounds. And finally, your landlord is not obligated to report your rental payments to the credit bureau. Credit card companies are obligated to report your payments to the credit bureau, which means every time you pay your credit card, same thing with your car note. Every time you pay your car note, that's building positive credit history. And, you need a mixture of healthy credit, different types of healthy credit to have a higher credit score. So it's really, really, really important that everything that you're paying, especially our rents are what, 40% of our income, 30% of our income for the most part. We want that to be reported to the credit bureaus. And if you're really low, that's a great way to boost it. Dan, do you have a minute to talk a little bit about some ways some people can get around, the landlord not having to report their credit?
Sure. There are like a few different options. Definitely, and I would like our superstars, Bill and Riley, to definitely chime in regards to that. There are different ways where folks can actually report their rent to different credit bureaus, because some landlords, especially private ones, it's not a benefit to them. They're going to know ultimately that, hey, you're trying to report your rent. So that means that, oh, wait, you're trying to leave? You're trying to get out? No, you messing up my cash flow. So with that, there may be different programs that folks can just sign up for. In addition, it will show, especially for FHA loan, which I can actually have Bill and Riley chime in on in regards to how it can be beneficial, especially even when it comes to utility payments. So if Bill or Riley, if you guys can chime in on that, as far as what ways folks can do, especially if they contact your office directly to get more insight on that.
Sure. Thanks, Dan. So yeah, if you want to contact our office at 610-660-9700, we can help walk you through that. Riley is definitely on the ground as it comes to working with the credit bureaus and helping establish people get scores, eliminate bad credit or past credit to get them in the right spot. So that way they're ready to get pre-qualified, or at least help them out. But going back on Amanda's great PowerPoint there, it really outlined a lot of great things that we can kind of touch on compared to rent versus buying. Is we don't have a minimum credit score requirement. You might have a really bad score, but you could have other compensating factors like a long-term work history or more money down out of pocket, or your debt to income ratio, which just means how much money you spend a month versus how much income you make a month, is very low. Those are things that, mortgage companies have a little bit more backing on because they have a house that's securing your loan against, where a renter is not. Renter is just securing it against themselves, being able to make those payments. Collections are also something that we can work with. We don't require you to pay off any of your collections. We actually just end up using a percentage of that balance as a monthly payment to then go against, the debt to income ratio part we talked about. So if you owe $2,000 to an old landlord, as long as it is not a judgment, we can just use a percentage of that as a monthly payment, not require you to pay it off. Could be something personal you had against him, and whatever it was has nothing to do with us at that point, and we wouldn't require you to pay it off. The other thing she said was the judgments. If there is a judgment against you, we would still require that to either be paid or satisfied, or on some kind of a payment plan. It reminded me of IRS taxes. If you do owe money to the IRS, that's not something we require you to pay off, as long as you are on a payment plan with that too. So there's a little bit more looser guidelines as far as buying a house that a lot of people don't know about. And just to kind of introduce, as Riley goes a little bit more into detail on this, is that with the credit, we have a great program that doesn't cost the consumers anything, where we get a credit check for you, tell you exactly what those scores are. And then we have a program that tells you exactly what to do to improve those scores. So if you have 3 items on your credit that maybe have a high balance, maybe you have a collection with Verizon or Comcast or something, it will tell us how much we have to pay it off or pay it down completely to raise your score X amount of points to get to the next level. So it's great. Again, it's complimentary, so it wouldn't be something that we charge our clients to. And then if they need to establish new credit in this environment where cash is kind of king, you know, we're only gaining 1% in our savings and checking accounts, and interest rates on mortgages are only 3% right now. A lot of people are having cash in their pocket, and so they're not getting credit cards, they're not getting these things, they're using cash a lot. They don't have a lot of credit to form credibility to get those scores up. So from there, we can actually help them with normal bills that they do pay on time. Stuff like, you know, rent, like you were saying earlier, Dan and Amanda. If you have consistent rent payments, we can actually take that evidence, give it to the bureaus, and all of a sudden you have this new trade line that shows your credibility of paying rent on time, which is a huge factor in getting you a credit score. Also, I talked about Verizon, Comcast, cable bills, cell phone bills, Netflix. I don't know who doesn't have Netflix anymore. Hulu, we talked about Hulu earlier. Any of those things that you just, oh man, you know what? I automatically pay that every month. We can actually take those items, send them to the bureaus as proof, as evidence the past 12 months, and give you a new trade line that helps get your score up. So that way you're going to get looked better for not only a renter, but of course, maybe a mortgage company you're looking to get approved for. So I'll let maybe Riley jump in and go in a little more detail of how that works, what documents are needed in order to kind of get those things done, in case anybody has that in mind of trying to establish new credit.
Yeah, absolutely. So that, like Bill said, is my main thing that I love doing, because I'm never one to give up a loan or to let anybody leave us without getting a house, or at least figuring out how they can or what steps they need to take to do that. Main thing you need really is just one bill showing either Netflix, Hulu, like Bill said, a utility bill, water, cable, and for everybody who rents, you have to pay either electric or water. It's normally one or the other. So if you've been paying them for 12 months, I just need one bill showing that your name, the account number, and how much you pay a month. I'll send it over to CBC, and then they'll call and just verify that you've paid it on time for 12 months. And that's automatically a trade line that can go right onto your credit score. We've seen so many people in the last few months who have been renting or ready to just take the next steps into home buying, but they think they can't because they don't have a credit score or it's not high enough. And we've helped them build it. And even if it takes a few months or a few days, honestly, sometimes if you get the bills over, they do it within 5 to 10 days. You'll have a new score. You don't have to wait until like another period when they re-pull your credit after like 30 days or anything like that. So it is a quick turnaround time. But it is a big thing that people steer away from buying from, because they're like, oh, I don't have credit. Nobody's going to accept me. And we do. That's one thing that I love also about like this company that we work for, is it's never, oh, you're just denied, we're not helping you, you know, move along, go to the next mortgage company. We'll do everything we can to either, like Bill said, show you exactly what steps you need to do to pay down or pay off any bills that you already have on your credit, or we could just build one with you. So.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Riley, Bill, that was fantastic. So you guys touched on a lot of the things that I wanted to say next, but I'm a visual person, so I'm going to show you all on my screen again.
Did Amanda go? We can't hear you now.
Sorry about that. Did I get kicked off? I don't know what I did.
You kicked yourself off being the
I
host,
kicked
yes.
myself off. I know, it's crazy. Okay, I don't know what y'all heard. But I'm a visual person, so I'm going to share my screen with you guys and let you see some of the stuff that they just covered in a different manner. So we talked about the gross income, and Bill talked about what your debt to income ratio is. Typically for an FHA loan, they're looking for the front end debt to income ratio to be 31%. Look at that. That number kind of matches 3 times your monthly rent. Bill talked about if you have a strong job history, it can make up for a low credit score. But the bare minimum is at least 2 years of work history. Same thing. Now, Bill said they got no credit requirements as far as the number is concerned. FHA guidelines, I believe, are 580 or lower. I do recommend that all my buyers have a 640 or higher, and that's just so that their life is a little bit easier. Closing the loan isn't quite so much work. It just makes things a little bit better. So if we can get them to a 640 or higher, we prefer that. But you can, yes, absolutely buy a house with as low as a 580. Bill corrected me on this judgment part, so ignore that. But if you have collections, that can just affect your DTI. So you can still have those collections, but it will be counted towards your debt and therefore can affect your debt to income ratio. As long as you don't have a judgment, nobody cares if you were evicted. Nobody really cares if you were a criminal in your past life, so long as your income is legal. And of course, the mortgage companies are required to report your mortgage payments every month and continue to increase that score so that if you were in the 580s, it can help you get to the 700 club or higher. There are questions? Yeah, okay. Let me hand it back over to you, Dan. You can talk a little bit more about how some renters can become buyers.
Yeah, so I mean, I just want to be clear with everybody. With Cross Country Mortgage, with Riley and Bill, they're going to be walking you through a step-by-step detailed process. We encourage you all, as we always encourage folks who are looking to buy or even looking to rent, to check out different brokerages. Check out different mortgages. You know, we want you to shop around. You know, not everybody goes to McDonald's for a burger. You know, not everybody goes to Burger King for fries. So we want you to actually go around and see what folks have the opportunity for. But the biggest thing is getting started. You know, I always tell folks, hey, you need to speak to a bank in regards to getting pre-approved before we can do anything at all. You know, some realtors might say, hey, come on out. Yeah, I'll definitely show you this $500,000 home, even though you're bringing in only $2,000 per month. So you definitely don't want it to be a time wasting factor, and you want to make sure that you are fully prepared, especially when you're either speaking with Riley and Bill, with Cross Country Mortgage, or even just a realtor in general. The biggest thing that I want folks to be understandable about as far as getting prepared for the next step, if you are currently renting right now, you want to be in a position where you're able to get to the point where you're becoming a green tenant, not so much an eco-friendly tenant, but actually getting the money put back in your pocket. Look over your lease. You know, if your lease is expected to be up in April, hey, now is the time to actually get started and look at your lease and see maybe there might be an opportunity where I could get out of this lease early. In addition, some folks may have to, well, I know that I had to, put down first, last month in a security deposit. With a security deposit, you know, landlords and property management companies might find every single niche on the wall to go against you, but that last month's rent is actually yours. So if you did do a brand new lease, let's say in April of 2021, and it's looking to expire in April 2022, you want to be in a position where it's like, okay, how can I secure that last month that can be used towards a down payment? How can I secure that last month towards closing costs? You know, so you definitely want to take the steps in regards to that. The other thing we definitely talked about, the credit score, utilizing that. I think that conversation definitely needs to be instilled because there are opportunities, folks, that you can get started on with utilizing your credit score. And even if it is a 550, 450, but I think the lowest is like 400 or something or 300 something, you still need to have that conversation, because what you don't want a year from now, 2 years from now, or even 3 years from now is still paying a landlord, especially when you might have the work history or even the income to afford to actually live in a home that you own. You get money back by living in a home. Now, there's different parameters as far as home equity, but real estate isn't going anywhere. You see it all around, driving through a neighborhood, going to your favorite restaurant, and even going out and about. Everybody needs a place to live. Everybody needs a place to work. 10 years from now, guess what's going to happen? Everybody's going to need a place to live, and everybody's going to need a place to work or even go to as far as for a meal. So take the opportunity, find your favorite mortgage person to go to, Bill and Riley, or talk to your favorite realtor, Amanda, Teneri, Joanne, DeAndre, Joanne, and all that. And Dan, yes, to do that, as well as, I see she just joined. So you want to make sure of that, so that way you're getting the ball rolling now, so that way it's not a year from now, 2 years from now that you're just stuck and you're like, I guess I'll still be renting for another year. So that's my piece.
Dan, I'm so glad that you said that. Being familiar with your lease. If you have a lease, a lot of people say to me, oh, I don't have a lease anymore. It just went month to month. That original lease, the original terms of that first document you signed, whether it was 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago, those terms are still the same. And whatever automated, repeat happens is an automated repeat, but the initial terms are still the same. So I'm glad you pointed out that most people do give last month's rent when they move in. And that's important that they know that they get that credited back to them, so they don't have to pay that last month. And yes, it's a lot of good money in your pocket. Also understanding when your lease ends and what happens if you terminate your lease early.
Without notice. It's a difference. And again, this goes back to your lease. If your lease says, like, I'll be upfront and transparent. My lease says, as long as you give 60 days notice, there's no issue, but it just needs to be in writing and give it to the property management. Now, if I come across $1 million tomorrow, trust me, my landlord is getting certified letter. They are getting it via email. I will even make sure to invest in a pigeon carrier to drop it off to them personally. So, but make sure you do look at the terms of your lease to see how you can actually get out your lease without any penalty.
Yeah, it's really important. Additionally, you talked about your security deposit. If you are in the process of moving into a new property, it is vital that you have a record of the condition when you moved in. As a property manager, I actually make a video of the property when I give my tenant their keys, so that there's no question about a dent on the wall, a stain in the carpet, anything like that. As a tenant, you want to do something like that to protect yourself. All videos that you make a video with your cell phone, all videos that we make are time stamped, they're dated. So it's really easy to, demonstrate when that happened. And you want to do it before you start moving furniture in and whatnot, so that if you did actually damage things. So that's really vital. A landlord is required to give you back your security deposit or prove that you're not owed it. So that's really, really important.
I have a few additions if you don't mind.
Yes,
please.
of course. This is why I invited you both. Yes, please.
Okay.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah. 3 things to say, which I love what I'm hearing here is also as far as rent, and versus owning and that type of thing is, some of the just the math of it is, if you're spending, say, $800 a month in rent, you can't normally, sublet that out. In other words, you can't divide that up and invite somebody else in there with you to, help pay that bill. But when you do own a home, you can do that. If you're spending $1,000 a month in rent and all of a sudden you want to pay a $1,200 mortgage payment, that's a $150,000, $180,000 house, depending on the taxes. But now you have 3 bedrooms that you can then rent that out. And if you charge $750 a month, you're paying less than you were renting and having to abide by the landlord and not being able to decorate it in the fashion you want to. And it's just, I think it just opened up people's mind, be like, wow, I'm worried about taking this risk of owning a home, but actually in a lot of ways you're minimizing risk because you have a lot more control and power to do with what you want with it instead of not. And then of course you can always sell it, where like you guys were just touching base on, which made me kind of jump up out of my seat, is you then have to abide by when you stay or when you go with this agreement. And if you leave, you might still have to pay those bills on months that you're not going to be there. With a house, you sell it, you're done. You're released from that obligation. The mortgage will get paid off and you can kind of wipe your hands clean of it. But another last thing is that the best conversations I get or calls I get are people that tell me, my lease, if it's October now, that their lease is going to expire in February. And they're 4 months ahead of proactively preparing on what they need to do by that point. The worst calls are my lease runs out in December and it's October and you got to run credit. You have to make sure everything's spot on there and perfect. Your affordability range might not be where you need it to be. You might have to find a co-signer. You help someone buy a car, so now you're on this car lien. In other words, there could be a whole bunch of things that we could really take the time to iron out ahead of time. And if you're proactive and you get those steps done, complimentary with myself and Riley, we can help walk you through that. So that way, when your lease is done, you're already set to go. You've already planned it out instead of been scrambling the whole time and trying to get everything done last minute.
Awesome. I appreciate that, Bill, so much. So I don't have anything else to add. Amanda, do you? You're on mute, though.
Yeah. Sorry, I was trying never mind. Bill, that was such a great thing that you said about renting out your rooms. House hacking that's what they call it these days, right? And you can house hack in a number of different ways. You can buy a multi-unit and rent out the other units, or you can buy a single family home and rent out the other bedrooms, which is what I did. I'm renting out a bedroom in my home right now to a friend. So, it's not weird, but it's really been a great way to minimize my liability and my risk. And I really, really love it. I would guess I would like to open up the floor to Q&A if anybody has any questions. And maybe we could even try to see if we can see questions on Facebook. Since we are live on multiple Facebook pages. If there's anybody asking questions, feel free to put them in the comments, put them in the chat, or if you're on Zoom, unmute yourself and chime in.
And this is open up to our fellow realtors as well. If there's any questions that you come across with current clients, past clients that may need to be asked, we got the experts, Riley and Bill, right here on the phone. Guys, calm down. There's too many people asking questions, please. Such a rush.
Dan, it's Taneri. This is great. This is amazing information. I think it's imperative that a lot of people understand that this is an office here that helps people become a part of the wave versus get affected by it. And one amazing way is to actually report your rental payments on your credit report, which can be on your credit report in as fast as 3 weeks without a new inquiry. And the banks do not consider that rental amount of, say, $1,200 a month towards your debt to income ratio. So it's a win-win-win in all ends.
And Riley, can you go over again, because I want to add on to that and I really want to take that home. Can you go over again as far as what folks need when it does come in regards to just showing proof of rent, utility bills to you and Bill when they do come in the office and speak to you, or even over the phone?
Yeah, absolutely. So rental payments, those work a little different than regular utility bills. So if you are a renter and you've been renting for 12 months or way longer than that, we'll need 12 months of canceled rent checks. All right. And just your landlord's information. So we could just call and confirm with him that you've been there. Because say some people sometimes pay with cash or Venmo. It's not always checks. Usually they have a way of jotting down, hopefully, when you pay and how much you pay every month. So it's just 12 months proof of that, excuse me. For utility bills, Netflix, Hulu, cable, water, anything like that, we just need your most recent statement. So the statement you get sent every month saying you owe this much, we just need one of them. As long as it says your name and the company, as soon as I send that to CBC, they will call that company and just confirm themselves that you pay the 12 months. And then, like I said, within 3 to 5 days, they'll get back to us. Sometimes it may take a little longer, like 5 to 10. And then they'll tell us that we can repull your credit. But it's a lot less of a waiting game than the 30 days that you would normally have to wait if you did it with anyone else.
Love that. Love that. And, you know, I wanted to bring that into light for everyone. So you had the credit my rent, you had the option with Riley, and I'm pretty sure for those who might not want to deal with Super Realty Group or deal with cross country mortgage, I want you to ask these questions and look for these options in building up your credit score. I didn't know anything about it. The reason why I joined FES, because it was not only boosting up my credit, which I was able to shoot up over 100 points and be able to walk away with a car without asking my mom. So I felt like a real man, real big boy, doing it on my own. But had I known about this knowledge beforehand, or even just the moment of just asking somebody on what I needed to do, has put me in a better position. So take the time, do your research, reach out to Super Realty Group, reach out to Riley, reach out to Bill, or like I said, reach out to your favorite mortgage and realtor who you know. And if they cannot provide the options, we just did a full workshop on options that can be provided to you. So you should already know how to make the best choice by, I feel like the Brady Bunch.
We should have did that in the beginning. We definitely should have done
Totally
that.
should have. We'll have to get a picture at the end.
Yeah.
So I love that what you said there, Dan, about knowing the right questions and having those questions. I always say the question that the only dumb question is the one you don't ask.
Mhm.
Because if you don't know, you're going to be sitting there and you're going to wonder. And what does Scenario always say? Wondering can be costly, right? So if you don't know, you might spend more money doing things the wrong way. Ask the question. Don't worry if you don't sound dumb. If you're in a group setting, chances are there's somebody else thinking the same question and they just couldn't speak up either. So go ahead and ask your questions. And it's really important, like you said, to interview different people. With your realtor, with your mortgage broker. It's very important that you find somebody, a company that you're interested in working with, that you like how they work, they can work with you, but also a personality thing, right? When you're looking for a home, when you're working on getting a mortgage, you're going to be dealing with this person with a realtor, probably 3 to 6 months, and with a mortgage broker, 45 to 60 days, right? You want someone to match your personality a little bit. So I recommend that people have that conversation, ask a lot of questions. And if that person is not interested in answering your questions, move on to the next person. You want a professional who is there to help you, because honestly, that's what we get paid to do, right? We're here to help you get the home that you want, to get the mortgage that you need to buy the home that you want.
Definitely. That is one main thing I was going to say. So with me and Bill and our processor, Jim, who couldn't be here today, you will get our personal phone numbers. It's not an 800 number that you're going to have to call and sit on hold and wait around for. And we're also all about like giving you as much education as we possibly can. For me, before I started working in mortgages or anything that has to do with home buying, I was the same way. I'm sitting there and I was like, oh, well, renting's just the easy way out kind of thing. I'm like, it's done. You just pay your first license security and you move in as little as that next month. But I love to educate people, especially because I didn't know any of this stuff. So when they call and they're super nervous and they're like, oh, I don't know if I really want to buy, like, might not be a good idea. And then they hear all the different programs and options. They're like, oh, wow, maybe that isn't as bad as I thought, or isn't as hard as I thought. So definitely make sure you're educated and ask as many questions as you can.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Riley. So
Thank you, Riley. Does anybody have, while we're talking about questions, any more questions, anything else to add? We definitely value your time, so we don't want to keep you any longer than we have to.
So many coming through. Goodness. All right. Well, if folks would actually like to reach the office directly, you can contact our office at 215-474-7741. Again, that number is 215-474-7741. And Riley, before you go, if you can leave your number again.
Yeah, absolutely. So our number for the office is 610-660-9700. And my personal line is 267-296-1603. If you guys need to reach me for anything, you can call or text at either of those numbers.
Awesome.
And that information is in the chat again.
I was gonna say, I'm like, I wouldn't remember that if I was sitting in this chat.
All right. Well, we want to thank everybody for coming out. Amanda, thank you. Janelle, thank you. Taneri, thank you for your insight. Also, our guest Latifa for coming as well. For the folks out in Facebook world, we appreciate you. Riley, really appreciate having you here, and definitely looking forward to getting people into some homes.
Yes. Yep, that's what we're here for.
Awesome. All right. Well, everybody have a great one.